I've got a really interesting guy here. It's Dylan, and Dylan is an anthropologist, and he also studies the occult. And you also offer.
I think, and then my love for the occult, kind of led me to, in terms of the psychic world, doing tarot and other forms of divination.
But how does for people who really don't know, how does that come together? Most we think of like it is like study of rocks or like.
Yeah, no, I think it's just the whole aspect of, if you think about the psychic world and just on a spiritual level, people have been. I think the first and foremost, the first real job was that of like the shaman or the magician. You had that person that everyone needed to go to for answers, you know? So you had someone, you know, the town wanted to know, why is there a drought? You know, why is this happening? Why has my spouse left me? And everyone looked to the divine or looked to that spiritual world. So because of that, there were tools that people used to find those answers.
Right, because there were no cards, so people used like rocks and stuff.
And that's called claromancy. So the art of casting lots, whether it be bones or gems or stones or anything like that, or runes, all that kind of falls into the aspect of a divination type known as claromancy. So technically, card throwing kind of falls into that category.
What's cartomancy? Isn't there something
So there's cartomancy, which is the modern term because now we have cards. But before then, before we went to cards, it would be claromancy. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
You're like the History Channel for psychics.
Yeah, and actually the first, so tarot, which is like very famous and everyone knows tarot, and a lot of people go to like the tarot cards. In terms of divination or being used for fortune telling or answering questions, that didn't really come up until the 1800s. And it didn't come to America until the Civil War. So in Europe, yes, we had tarot cards, like one of the famous ones is known as the Visconti tarot from the 14th century, but that was actually just a playing card deck. And it was used by very famous families. Now, it's also said that gypsies used tarot cards as well for divination, but it was mostly just for yes-no questions. So it wasn't full form in terms of looking at a concrete answer or looking at a general reading. That didn't really come about till the 1800s.
This is fascinating. It's like history.
Yeah.
We're getting a history lesson.
So usually what would happen is that you would have stones or bones, and you would ask a question, you would throw those, and based on where those were cast or where those fell, that's kind of where you came about and answered questions. So you would have a bone here, you would maybe have a gem, and the gem represented something else. So if you had an amethyst, usually amethyst represents healing or the psychic world. So you would say, okay, there's something spiritual happening over here that you need to look at, but this foot bone means that you are grounded and you have to stay, you know, focused on your goal.
So what does people say, throwing bones? When you just throw,
So you kind of just, that's kind of where it came from. You know, I'll throw you a bone, or I'll give you an answer, or I'll help you out. You know, so it came in that aspect. And then the ancient Greeks,
He's calling, he wants his portrait.
He wants the bones. So the ancient Greeks, they also did a form called scrying. So they would look at smoke. So when they would burn herbs, and the smoke from the herbs would light, and you would kind of peer into that, gaze into that, and kind of get questions. So actually tarot falls into the aspect of scrying too, because there are intuitive tarot card readers who kind of look at the images and the images that are conveyed through them. That kind of gives them the answers.
Fascinating. So let's talk about the occult.
Okay.
I love the occult.
Yeah, so the word occult actually means unknown. So it's sad because I think there's such a huge misconception because you have all these cults, or this person joined a cult. And cult is also new. So anything that doesn't fall under religious dogma, so Christianity, Judaism, all those things kind of form into the aspect or fall into the category of cult or pagan.
Oh, so that's where it comes from.
Yeah. So it's kind of that. So actually cults are fairly new. The occult, if you put an O in front of it, just means the unknown. It's something we don't necessarily do. So like the practice of witchcraft, you know, if you're in a group, you're part of the occult because you don't necessarily keep into that. There are different sects that meet together that don't even offer anything to do with spirituality. That would be known as the occult.
So it's not really that, it sounds scary, but it's not really scary.
True.
It's because we don't know.
It's because you don't know. So exactly, and that's why it kind of gets a bad rap, you know?
It's
and the same with like, you have like voodoo, everyone gets scared of voodoo. Voodoo is just a synchronistic religion. So all it is different faiths kind of put together in one in New Orleans. So you have Catholics, you have West African traditions that are put in there. You have all these different religions that are kind of piled in one, and they're taking bits and pieces, and they call it voodoo. You know, it's not necessarily a organized religion or anything of that. Hoodoo is a magic, voodoo is a religion, and then it's also just called folk magic.
So people just need to relax. They
True.
get so upset about these words. They're just words,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, we have so much to learn from you. I'm so glad you're on the show because we could spend a lifetime
Well,
talking
thank
to
you for having me.
All right, Dylan. Yes.
Awesome,
Okay.
Heather.
Okay, cool. We'll be right
Very
back.
happy.